Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Timeless or Trash. I'm your host today, Christian, and joining me as usual is...
Ben,
Dan,
and James.
And today, in honour of the release of the reboot of Mortal Kombat, we're going to be going back to 1995 and watching the original attempt at the Mortal Kombat movie.
incredible.
very excited today, guys. Quite curious what this is going to be.
It's going to be a film, I think.
We'll see.
I'll start throwing it out there. Have other people seen this film before?
No.
You've seen it though, Christian, right?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times a while ago. It kind of has glancing blows to the games at points. It kind of just goes off and is a mad, stupid, ridiculous, over-the-top video game film that is enjoyable for that reason, but is also lacking in the budget that it needed to pull off.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that it will be a very entertainingly stupid movie.
I feel like
I
we
mean,
said
I
that
know
in every intro to every time for Trash we've ever done.
I go in optimistic. We're always hopeful to have a fun time.
I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan. I love the games. But what about you guys? What's your experience with Mortal Kombat as a franchise? I'll start with Ben.
My experience with Mortal Kombat from being at Christian's house, Sub-Zero, the Terminator, now RoboCop and Rambo. So I'm expecting big things from this film today. Don't really know anything. I'm so confused of what's Mortal Kombat, what's Street Fighter, what all the other stuff. I don't know. Is Raiden?
Raiden is Mortal Kombat.
Johnny Cage?
Mortal Kombat.
You got your Scorpion, you got your Sub-Zero,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got your Johnny Cage.
See, Dan knows what he's talking
You got
about.
your Raiden, you got your Mario.
Got
no,
Luigi.
we're getting away from it now.
I've played it with friends, not really knowing what's going on. I've no idea about the story or any of it. I didn't even know there was a story. So I'm excited though.
Dan, what's your Mortal Kombat experience?
Well, as far as the film goes, absolutely no experience whatsoever. I really don't know what to expect from it. But the game, growing up, it was kind of like the bad Street Fighter that you weren't allowed to play. But yeah, the film. I've not seen the film, so I'm hoping for a bit of camp, weird, silly, daft fun.
James, what's your experience with Mortal Kombat?
Literally nothing. Never seen this film, never seen any of the other films, never owned or really played any of the games. I am very fresh for Mortal Kombat.
Not even as like a little get together.
Like I've played it at friends' houses, like the couple games. I've been more Injustice than I have been Mortal Kombat.
It's going to be interesting to see what you think of this, not knowing anything about Mortal Kombat. Without further ado, let us get right into Mortal Kombat.
Let's fight.
Fight! Right, so there you have it. We've just watched 1995's first attempt at a Mortal Kombat movie. So let's get into it. What did everyone think?
It was quite peculiar. I was kind of into it at some points, and then totally not at others. It was kind of all right.
You were into it at some point.
Well, the that one shot of that
The credits.
the one shot of that extra who swung that like axe thing, and he was really into it. He knew he had like, I've got 5 seconds, I'm going to go nuts. And then the bit when Johnny Cage turned up in his sunglasses in the fight, I was into that bit.
Yeah, but why did
Until
Goro
his
not put them
sunglasses
on?
got broken.
Yeah. Is he going to put them on?
Put them on,
Do it.
coward. What's the f***ing point, man? This is what I'm talking about, where some of these films and these series aren't dumb enough. Why isn't there a running joke of Johnny Cage trying to get rid of his luggage and keep falling over? Things like that.
This film takes itself far too seriously.
Yeah. It's because, this film is very serious, about a very serious fighting tournament with very serious people who have a very solemn goal in mind. I think it was something to do with the end of the world or something. They could joke.
Basically, the story was Outworld's Emperor Shao Kahn is threatening to invade Earthrealm, but he can only invade Earthrealm if he wins 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments in a row. He'd won 9 and was about to win his 10th, so this was Earthrealm's final 3 champions going forward to make sure that Shao Kahn couldn't invade. And then at the end, he invades anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Who made that rule up that he has to fight 10 Mortal Kombat?
The script.
Shang Tsung. I don't know. Basically, what they did with this story was Paul W.S. Anderson sat down and he looked at Mortal Kombat's lore at the time and he was like, I like that bit, and that bit, rest of it in the bin. It basically made for a film where it was dumb in places, but also tried to take itself too seriously. And then because he cherry-picked which bits of the lore he wanted, it was really confusing and hard to follow. Even as someone who knows the story, that film was very convoluted and meant that you guys were asking questions like, but why is that the
That's
case?
the thing. I really felt like this film expected me going in with knowledge of things. Like, particularly, it felt like I was just supposed to know some of these characters' relationships, like the Australian guy and what's-her-face?
Sonya.
Sonya Blade and Kano.
Yeah, it felt like I was supposed to know their backstory and why they hated each other and everything that had gone on.
I guess when this film was released, it was the height of Mortal Kombat fever, you know, and people would have gone into this film having been fans of the game and knowing all the characters, and, you know, the filmmakers probably knew this. For us watching now, you know, what is it, almost 30 years later, I think it's kind of it was a bit incoherent. I don't think any of us are going to pretend that this film is anything like more than mediocre.
Yeah,
like,
sadly.
at best.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
here's the thing at the crux of it. It is a film called Mortal Kombat. It's based on a fighting game. If you're going to do that, you've got to have good fight scenes. And the straight and simple of it is, this film didn't. It doesn't deliver on the basic level that it has to.
There was a couple of fight scenes that were clearly decently choreographed but hadn't been practiced enough. So it looked like they were practicing for them for the first time on screen.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, one take,
It
whatever.
looked like we were watching rehearsals.
But the Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight part 2 in that kind of go ape section thing, and then it delivered. I asked for it. Like, I was like, you've put all this stuff there, you better use it, and it delivered. They should interact with it. They should swing about and do some shit like that.
Like that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the reptile Liu Kang fight towards the end, there were moments of that were pretty cool, and it looked like they were trying to go a bit more like, oh, look, it looks like the games at times.
the thing is, at that point, that was the third time the same actor had been like in a fight scene in essentially the same costume but slightly different colour. Not
Pretty
really.
sure they were 3 different actors.
Were they? I bet they were the same actor. You couldn't see his
Might
face.
as well
Same
have the same actor.
I wanted more though. We had a blue one, we had the yellow one, the green one. I wanted a pink one, brown, red, the full Power Ranger. I wanted it all.
Yeah, Scorpion, Sub-Zero and Reptile are 3 different actors.
That's
Nah.
stupid.
What's the point?
You should have paid one guy to do
Yeah.
that.
This film was basically like, I'd say maybe 40-50% fights. Like the whole of Act 2 was basically just a fight. We went from Act 1, which was just the setup, which was very rushed, wasn't it? We kind of knew what was going on, but the film didn't really care about it. It just wanted to get to the fights. And then once we got there, the fights were just a bit like rubbish. And the brand is that Mortal Kombat is very violent. There's a lot of gore. And this film is extremely kind of tame.
It's so tame.
Not that I wanted to see blood and limbs and guts flying everywhere, but like, it's Mortal Kombat, and I expected a bit more.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. It was very, very, very PG.
It doesn't deliver on the basic things that it should do.
It's the classic of that era when they just don't adhere to what you're adapting. So it's almost like, what's the point?
Talking of video games, guys, some of the special effects in this film look like a video game, didn't they?
Yeah.
From 1980s.
Reptile did not look good.
Some very ropey VFX shot all the way through.
You could really tell where they'd spent money and where they hadn't bothered. Even though they were sort of minimalist in places, it was clear they'd spent money on locations
The sets
and
look
sets.
good, really good at some points.
It looks like they blew all the rest of their money on Goro's animatronic puppet stop motion costume,
He looked alright.
whatever it was.
He
looked
looked
pretty
alright.
good.
And he had a better wig than Raiden.
Yeah,
He had better
Raiden.
hair.
That was
poor.
Nothing about Raiden is good in this film. It's miscast, it's an awful wig, the voice is just weird. He doesn't fight at any point in the film.
Where's the hat?
Yeah.
Reptile, though, he actually doesn't add anything to the plot. He has that one little fight with Louis, and then you could actually just delete it.
He's contractually obligated to appear in the game because, let's face it, they're trying to sell the video game, aren't they? So they need to have the reptile or whatever the hell it was in it, even though it just doesn't have any point whatsoever.
There's a few good moments from the game where they get actual game moves in. They get Scorpion's like peel off face fatality where he breathes fire in. They get Johnny Cage's split into the nut punch on Goro.
Which I definitely said, I definitely called it when, as a joke, when Raiden was like, oh, there's only one way to beat him, and I was like, only one way to defeat him, and I was like, yeah, you hit him in the balls.
How could we possibly beat something like that?
You've got to kick him in the f***ing balls, man.
The other one, which was probably the only reason for the fight with Reptile, is they got Liu Kang's continuous kicks. All moves from the game. The problem is that they miscast a lot of the characters, especially Raiden. Kitana was kind of miscast, and Johnny Cage.
He was sort of the comic relief a bit, wasn't it? Because everyone else was very serious.
He would
And
have
then-
been if
and
he'd
then you
cracked
had,
any good jokes.
The comic relief. Yeah, there were a few sort of moments where he sort of chuckled.
He had
at some of
one
the stuff he
good
said.
joke. The whole film about Sonya being like, I'm a strong, independent lady, I don't need no man. And then he was like, oh, you go explore whatever that thing is. And she's like, what? No. Like, that was a good little payoff.
It was nice of them to put her in Slave Princess Leia outfit at the end, wasn't it? Jesus
I
Christ.
gave her a nice
shit, they-
makeover.
Oh.
Yeah, the fucking slave layered her.
A little bit dated, wasn't it?
And like, that's the thing, it does this classic thing that particularly more dated films do, is there's been no hints of romantic entanglement through the whole film, but then for the final scene / even final shot, it's like, oh, and he's paired off with her, she's paired off with him, and they ride off into the sunset as couples.
I was saying to you guys, I think there's some reshoots going on because Shang Tsung, his hair changed at various points. Like you said, James, he had a Lord Farquaad cut at some points and actual long hair at other points. Like they lost his original wig or something.
One of the few things that I do know about Mortal Kombat is your Scorpion and your Sub-Zero. They were nothing in this film, barely in it,
They
didn't
were
play a
nothing.
part.
Yeah.
They were rubbish.
And the fact that they both get killed.
But I suppose at least you then get some fatalities, I suppose.
Fatalities.
To be fair, Scorpion's skull set on fire and exploded.
You got cut in half.
That was pretty fatal, I think.
He actually exploded afterwards as well.
Okay.
Like,
Just to make sure.
Very fail.
We've talked about all the special effects and the costumes and the sets. How much do we think this film cost?
95. I'm gonna say 75 million.
I reckon this was super low budget. I'm gonna go for 35 million.
They had lots of sets. Didn't really go back to. It's a lot of wasted money. I was thinking 60. I might say 60.
Well, the closest person is actually Dan. This film cost 18 million.
I knew it.
Oh.
So low budget. Yeah.
So low budget.
Have you seen the state of this film, guys? Come on, man.
To be honest, for 18 million, it looks pretty good.
Remember that one shot where it was just like the word? We remember Johnny Cash. What was he? What the hell was the guy's name?
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage.
Luke
Johnny
Cage.
Cage. Had his luggage and he was going up the stairs and it was a long wide shot and it was just the worst looking thing. That looked bad on our relatively small screens. Imagine that on blown up on a cinema screen.
And then there's the wide shot of him and Goro fighting on the side of the cliff.
Don't forget the bloody hand snake thing in the woods.
that was great.
That cost 20 pence. That.
18 million and all those sets and all those locations. That's pretty good going.
They've stretched that, to be fair.
Yeah.
They spent all the money on that banquet, that Hogwarts banquet, for only to. Oh, I was so livid.
Point in that.
I was so livid at that bit, man. Could you imagine you've made like a roast dinner and you're about to dine in and some bloke just swats it out off the table? Oh, I'd be
Pointless fight.
And like the cherry on top of how just kind of dumb this film is the ending.
It was funny though because we were flagging towards the end, and then that like giant freak comes out of the temple, and we're like, "Oh right, another fight scene." And then the film ended, and we were like, "Oh okay, well, I mean that was rubbish, but at least the film's over."
It rivaled the X-Files for sudden endings.
I want to see that on one of the posters. It's rubbish, but at least it's over.
Go on, how much do you think this film made?
I'm going to stick with my budget answer. I think it made 60 million.
I'm gonna go for a nice round 50.
Let's say 45 million.
This film made 124.7 million.
Oh my god, no.
Holy shit.
I mean, there's why it got a sequel.
I mean, I'll lean back in the chair in victory. I got it right. Oh, I fixed my chair, by the way. My chair's fixed, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Fixed that. Look at that, everybody. Way.
Well, don't do that.
I broke it.
Break
I've
it.
broken it
Broke
again.
it again, then that would have been phenomenal.
This film made over 6 times its budget.
That's
That's
pretty incredible, isn't it?
insane.
Well done. They've
That
scammed
is,
us.
now that is a flawless victory.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, none of the ones that they call out in the film are flawless victories, but that is.
Flawless victory.
Was it? Another small note. I actually really like the setting for that Johnny Cage Scorpion fight. Like all the trees that are in a perfect row make
Yeah.
some really cool camera shots.
Listen, that fight was probably the high point of the film, I reckon, because the choreography was pretty decent. The setting was also pretty decent. Like there was one point where it was framed really nicely. It was just they were both silhouetted against this weird kind of hellscape with all the sticks and whatever the hell it was. It looked pretty good. I thought it was nicely composed shot. You know, not to be too pretentious.
It's just a shame that they then followed that up with the Liu Kang and and Sub-Zero fight. That entire fight is really slow, and then the revelation at the end that the weakness of the Ice Warrior is water.
It wasn't even just water, it was technically ice that was the downfall of the ice character.
Yes.
Stupid.
It was very peculiar.
We've come full circle from you saying it was very peculiar at the start.
I think that is the nice bow to lead us into the question that we need to answer. Is this film timeless or is it trash? And I'm going to start with Dan.
Yeah, so we've done a pretty good job at analysing this film, haven't we? I suppose we've talked about the various pros and cons, mostly cons, but let's face it, it was kind of just bilge, wasn't it? This, it was just a bit rubbish. It was mediocre. It was a bit boring. It was bad. It was dated. It was trash.
Some strong opinions there. James.
There isn't much more to say. It doesn't have good fight scenes. It doesn't have a good story. It doesn't even really look good. It's just trash.
Ben.
The logistics of the actual tournament really bothered me. That there wasn't a bracket and there isn't you fight this person and then the winner goes on to the last 16 who goes on to the quarters. It's obviously trash, but maybe a very mild recommendation.
If I was rating this film on its soundtrack solely, it would be timeless. However, considering it looks cheap, cheesy, and camp, it takes itself way too seriously and doesn't lean enough into the fact that it is a dumb video game adaptation. So, unfortunately, it's gonna be a trash. Just to close it off, fully, all four of us, Mortal Kombat is trash.
Fatality.
It's a shame. It's just a shame. It's a shame.
Well,
It's a shame, but maybe we'll get to go on and do the second one. Maybe we should go and look at some of Paul W.S. Anderson's later video game adaptations, because after this he went on to go do the Resident Evil franchise.
Oh my god. And if you enjoyed this video, wait till you see what we've got planned for next week's video. Clip!
What do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
You know what? Let me just speak to the people who are watching at the moment and have a heart to heart. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm really pleased about that. Go and watch the Turtles video. You might not like the film, neither did we. Really? Well, actually, wait a minute. You guys did like the film, didn't you?
Yeah, I fucking love that film.
But I didn't. Go and watch it. Stop being rude.
I was going to say,
Why do you hate our fans so much?
I don't hate the fans. I love the fans.
Anyway.
No, I've not finished. No.
And another thing.
And another thing. Actually, we do not.
Anyway.
Play the Oscars music. Get him off the stage. Play the music.
Now that Dan has finished berating the fans, please do like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let us know if you've seen this film. Let us know what other films you want us to watch. Is there any other video game films that could possibly top this as the worst video game film we've seen so far? Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
See ya. Bye. Jesus Christ.